Hi, my name is Koen Stocks. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and I live and work in Belgium. Today we'll be covering how to build business process flows in Dynamics 365 Business Central with Microsoft Flow and PowerApps. So this session should help you to understand how to use Microsoft Flow to build multi-step flows using Business Central data. But we will also focus on using Flow actions to notify users. And you will also get an overview of how you can build a simple business app using PowerApps. It's easy to use Business Central with Microsoft Flow and PowerApps. With Microsoft Flow, you can use your Business Central data to set up multi-step workflows. You can use one of the predefined workflow templates to get up and running with document approvals in no time. Microsoft Flow enables you to set up workflows between Business Central and many other applications like Dynamics 365 for Sales, LinkedIn, Facebook, Teams, MailChimp, and so on. By adding conditions to your workflow, you can specify when certain actions should run. With PowerApps, you can easily build the business app you need. Besides many other applications, you can also build apps on Dynamics 365, including Business Central. You can apply your own app design by choosing from a large selection of templates or by just starting from a blank canvas. Now in this demo, we will show how you can use Microsoft Flow to set up a customer approval workflow. Let's check the details. First of all, only customers with a credit limit of more than 5,000 local currency should be approved. Then emails should be sent to approvers and requesters. If the customer gets approved, the workflow also posts a new message in Teams, and the customer in Business Central automatically gets the reminder terms code HI. If the customer is rejected, then also a message is posted in Teams. And the customer in Business Central is blocked. So let me start by showing you the end result, and then I will explain how we can get there. So if a user, in this case Steven, creates a new customer, he will need to send an approval request. The approver, in this case Koen, will receive an email in Outlook and he can take appropriate action. At one hand, he can approve the customer, or at the other hand, he can also reject the customer. If he approves the customer, a number of things will happen. So first of all, Steven will receive an email that the customer is approved. Next, a message will be posted in Teams. And the reminder terms code HI will automatically be set for the customer record in Business Central. So that's the end result. Let me now explain you how we can get there. So we need to set up a flow, and then we can start using it from Business Central. So the first thing I need to do is create a new flow. So I've opened Microsoft Flow, as you can see here, and currently, by going to My Flows, you can see that I don't have any flows yet. So it's time to start creating my first flow. Now that's something that I can do in two different ways. So I could start from a blank, which means that I will have to set up the flow manually. So I will have to specify the trigger that should be used in the flow. I will have to enter the different actions. I will have to configure them. So that's perfectly possible because here you can see a number of popular triggers, but by clicking here on this action and by searching, for example, on Business Central, you can see that there are also a number of Business Central triggers. So that should get me started quite easily. However, in most of the cases, it's also useful to first look for a template because if the flow that you want to create already exists as a template, you can create the flow much more efficiently and much faster. So let's also double check that. So I will go back to My Flows. And I will click now on Create from Template. So this is the second way of creating flows. Next, I will search for Business Central templates. And here you can see a number of templates that we can use. Now, you will see that most of these templates are related to approvals and document approvals like sales and purchase documents, but also general journal lines, for example. But the one that I'm looking for this example is the customer template, as a request approval for Dynamics 365 Business Central Customer. So let's open this template. The next thing the system will check is the connection that we need to have to the different components. So in this case, I need to have connection to Business Central, quite obviously, but also to approvals and to Office 365 Outlook. But in each case, this is okay for me, what you can tell by looking here at the green check marks. So this means that I can click on Continue and go to the next step. And now you will see the outline of the flow. And again, that's the advantage of using a predefined template. So all the different components are already predefined. So the trigger that should trigger the flow is defined. Also a number of actions, but we still have the flexibility to add actions, which I will also do here in this example. Okay, but also very important to realize, although we are using a predefined template, we still should configure the flow. So each component still should be configured. So let's start here with the first one. So here you can see the trigger, and the trigger is the approval request for a new customer. And so when a customer approval is requested, so that's basically the trigger. Now the first thing I need to specify is the company name. So let me click here, and you will then see that the different companies of my database will load. And I'm using a demo database, and for this example, I will use Kronis International Limited, so a demo company. So and that's the first very important thing I need to specify, not only in this component, so not only in the triggers, but also, for example, in the actions, as we will see in a few moments. Then also very interesting and also necessary for this example, conditions. Because remember, in the previous part, I explained that the condition we want to use is the credit limit. So only customers with a credit limit of more than 5,000 should be approved. So that's basically a condition. Now here you can see that we can set a number of conditions. First, second, third, and so on. But notice that for the third and the fourth condition, I can select the field. But that's not visible for the first and the second condition. So how do we know which is the first and the second condition? Well, also these are predefined. And by clicking here on Edit, they are displayed. And you can see that the first condition is set to credit limit and the second one to blocked. I can always change it if I want, but in my example, I would like to use the credit limit. So I will stick here first condition with credit limit, and then I can enter the condition itself. And again, my credit limit should be more than 5,000 local currency. So there you go. That's my first condition, and also the only condition I would like to use for my example. But you can add a second condition, a third one, if you want, like you can see here. Okay, so this is the first step. So now I've configured the trigger, but I also need to configure here the get item component. So from which company should the system get the item? So, and the item in this case is, of course, the customer. So I will click here, and I will, of course, get the same selection list. And also here, I will select Kronis International Limited. Then you can see the following component, and that's the approval component. And so the title is Request Approval for Microsoft Customer, as we just saw. And then you can assign the approval to a specific user. Now, there are a couple of options that you can use here. You can enter an email address, or you can use dynamic content. So in real life, in an environment with multiple users, you could use dynamic content, for example. But because I'm using here a demo environment where there are only a few users set up, I will just enter an email address. So and the email address that I will enter is my email address. So I will enter Koen, and here you can see that the system already recognizes the user. So Koen Stocks with the email address. And supposing that this is the sales manager that should approve customers, this is the email I would like to go for. So again, now this is a fixed, a predefined email address, but you can also use dynamic content if you want. Then the details. So the details, they will specify what is included in the email message. In this case, customer with the customer number, and then the name needs to be approved. If you want, you can add a link. And by clicking here, again, you can see that there are a number of dynamic content fields that I can add. And if you want, you can then also describe the link. But for this example, that's not necessary. Only having this message in the email body is okay, as we will see when running the workflow. Okay, then let's scroll down. Then we get to the condition. So here you can see that the condition, the response is equal to approve. So this means that if the approver gets an email and he or she clicks on approve, then this condition is met. So this condition is yes, which means that now we will start performing the actions for yes. So in here you can see that if approve is yes, so in other words, if the approver has approved the new customer, then you can see here that an action is executed. So let me click here and select Krones International again. There we go. If you want, you can edit the default parameters, but that's not necessary because the system already specifies that there is a workflow step ID that should be executed. Okay, and that's also something I will show you in Business Central a little bit later. And then there's the second condition. So this is the first one, but then we're now looking at what should happen if the first condition is yes. You can see here the second condition is that requested by email is not equal to, and here I will select dynamic content, the approver email. And so basically what I'm specifying here, that if the requester is not the same as the approver, then I will continue with yes. Then an email should be sent. Okay, so let me click on edit. So in here you can see the email that will be sent to the requester. You see, so to requested by email, and this email will of course inform the requester that the customer is approved. You see. So again, let me explain again. So the condition in this case is approved. So if the customer is approved, and the requester is not the same as the approver, then an email will be sent to the requester. And so that's basically what you see here. So and in the current template, this is the only action that the system will take when a customer is approved. Now, besides sending emails to the requester, I would like to add an action. And as I already mentioned, that's perfectly possible. So I can click here on Add an Action. Next, I can search for the connector, and in this case, I would like to post a message to Teams. And because we're using Teams, and there's a sales and operations team with a number of members like sales managers, sales consultants, and so on. And every time a customer gets approved, I would like to post a message to that team that a customer was approved, and to inform all the members of that team. So I've searched on Teams. Next, I will select Microsoft Teams, and then I will select here Post a Message. And so here you can see the different actions that we can take. And in this case, I would like to post a message to an existing team. Now, first of all, I will have to select the team ID. And that's Krones Sales and Operations. So that's the team I would like to use. Then the channel ID. And in this case, I will just stick with the general channel. And then the message itself. And so here you can then enter the message. And for example, I can start with the approver name to inform who has approved the customer. So approver name, then I will add some text. Has approved customer. And then I will add the customer name. So let me search on name, and here I will select customer name. Okay, a very simple message, but just to show you, how it works. So the message will be that, for example, Koen has approved customer training and consultancy, for example, if that would be a new customer. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's something I would like to add as an action. So posting messages to Teams. But then there's another action. So remember, when I described the scenario, there's something else that I want to perform, and that's updating the customer record in Business Central. And for that reason, I will search for Business Central. So there we go. I will select Business Central here, and then you can see the actions that we can use. And in this case, I would like to update an item, so the customer record more specifically. So there we go. So now again, I will have to select for which company. So Krones International. Then of course the table name. And for this example, I will select customer card. And then there's the row ID. Now the row ID is a very important field because that's the field the system will use to search for the record, the customer record. So and in this case, let me search on number because the system should look at the number, the customer number. There we go. And this will assure me that it will search for the right customer. Next, I will scroll down to find the reminder terms code field. There we go. And I would like to set the reminder terms code to high. Now let me explain why my demo company Krones International, as I will show you in the application in a few moments, is using 3 reminder terms code, low, middle and high. So low for customers that have a very low credit limit, middle or medium customers that have a normal credit limit, but high customers with a high credit limit. So and based on that, they will also apply specific reminder settings and so on. But more important here for the workflow, once that the customer gets approved, I would like the program to automatically set the reminder terms code to high. And that's the third action I would like to take if a customer gets approved. But of course, what if a customer is rejected? So what if the customer doesn't get approved? Then of course I should scroll up, because remember I have started with approve. So and if yes, then I already configured all the actions, but I need to do the same in case the customer is rejected. Okay, let's do the same here. So first of all, I will go to the execute action, and I will also select the company. So my demo company for this example, Krones International. Which means that also here the system will perform a workflow step ID, and so the step in case of a rejection. Then also here you can use conditions, and let's have a look at condition 3, and let's scroll to the right. I will start in the same way, because also here I would like to check if the requester is different from the approver. And because that's the condition. And if this condition is met, again, the system should send an email. And so in here you can see, of course, an email that will inform the requester that the customer is rejected with comments if they are available. But also here, I would like to take another action. So besides informing the requester by email, I would like to automatically block the customer in Business Central. So let me do this. So I will click here on Add an Action. Next, I will search again for Business Central. There we go. And also in this case, I will update an item. So I will select the company name. Then the table name, which also in this case is customer cards. The row ID, which I will also set to number. There we go. And then in this case, I should of course look at the blocked field, and blocked should be set to all. And so I will just enter all, as you can see here. And now the system will automatically block the customer if he gets rejected. Okay, so and that's basically what I would like to do in this case. Now also notice that there is if no for the second actions, the actions that should be taken after the approval of the rejection. In most of the cases, we will not further set up these actions, because basically what this would mean is that if a user, if the approver rejects, for example, the customer, this is making sense because here we are saying that the approver is rejecting a customer that is created by someone else. But if this would be no, then he is rejecting a customer that he or she has created him or herself. You see, so and that's not really making a lot of sense. So in most of the cases, that's why I will not further configure this because it's making more sense to configure the yes options in this case. Okay, our flow is ready. And remember, when approving customers, there are a number of actions the program will take. So first of all, the requester will get an email. Then the system will also post a message to Teams. And it will update in Business Central the reminder terms code of the customer. Now, when rejecting a customer, then the requester will also get an email informing that the customer is rejected. And in Business Central, the customer will be blocked. Let's now go to Business Central. First, I will show a couple of settings, and then we will, of course, make some examples. So here in Business Central, before making some examples, let me show you a couple of things. And the first thing I would like to show you are the reminder terms. Because remember, one of the actions the program should take is automatically fill in hi if a customer gets approved. And here you can see, just an example of course, but my demo company, Kronos International, is using 3 different reminder terms, high, low, and medium. And suppose that they are related to the credit limit. Then again, if a customer with a high credit limit is approved, they should automatically get high as the reminder term. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would like to show you, so let's go to the workflow. And because there is also an internal and embedded workflow function in Business Central. So and basically what you will see now is that, and let's focus on the last line, is that when creating a flow in Microsoft Flow, the system will automatically create a similar workflow in Business Central. You see, and this workflow also has, for example, the condition of the credit limit that should be more than 5,000. So you can, of course, expand the workflow, and then you can see the different steps. Like reject, approve, cancel, and so on. So that's, from an operating point of view, quite important because that's what Business Central will use to perform specific actions. Let's now go to customers. And let me create a new customer. So I will click on New. So I will create a business customer. And let's call the customer Training Company. And there we go. And I will enter a credit limit of 2,000. And so if I enter 2,000, you can see the credit limit and the Send Approval Request action in the ribbon. So let me click now on Send Approval Requests. So in here you can see now, because the credit limit is, of course, lower than the condition 5,000, that no approval workflow is enabled. So this customer shouldn't be approved. So there you can see that the system will, of course, take into account the conditions that we have set. Now, if I would enter a credit limit more than 5,000, so for example 8,000, and if I now click on Send Approval Request, you will see now that the message I just got doesn't appear anymore, and now the approval request is sent. Okay, let's now go and have a look at what happens, because there are a number of actions that the system should take, if you remember well, and the first one is sending emails to the approver. So let's go and have a look. So in here we can see the Outlook of the approver. So in this case, the approver is Koen. And here you can see Outlook with a number of messages. And you can see that there are a number of approval requests. So for example, let's open this one. So in there you can see now the typical approval message. So information on the customer that should be approved, customer 180, flow, and so on. So this is the customer that I now have to check, and I can take two different actions. So the first one is approve, the second one is reject. Also notice that, of course, if I would like to have more information, I can also always access Business Central from Outlook. So that's something very convenient. But what is also very convenient is that you can take the appropriate action from your email. So I don't need to go to Business Central. If I have all the required information here, I can just take action here from Outlook. So I can now click on approve. If necessary, I can enter a reason or a comment, and then I can submit. So that's the first action the system took, so sending emails to the approver. And by doing this, by the way, the requester will also get an email notifying him or her that the customer is approved. Also very important. Now, the second thing, remember, a second action that we have set up in Flow is posting a message in Teams. So here I have opened Teams, and you can see here the Kronos Sales and Operations team, the one that I've selected in the setup of the workflow. And here you can see now the message. So Koen Stocks has approved customer flow. Remember, there were a couple of dynamic fields like the approver and like the customer name. And now all the members of this team will be informed that a new customer is approved by Koen. You see, so that's the second thing that you can do, very interesting, because then also members in teams that maybe don't have access to Business Central are also automatically updated of new customer approvals. Also very interesting. And then let's also check the third action. So here in Business Central, let's go and check the customer. So I will open customer 180. And now by scrolling down, you can see here the reminder terms. You see, so the reminder terms is now set automatically to high, also based on the approval of this customer. So that's the first thing, first example. Let's return to Outlook. And because besides approving customers, we can of course also reject customers, and let's go ahead and do that. So I will go to a second example. So here's the approval request for Power Consult, so another customer. But in this case, that's something I would like to reject. So I will click on reject. I can enter a reason. A customer already exists. There we go. And because now the requester will also be informed why I'm rejecting this customer. And now again, I will click on submit. So here in this case, two actions will be taken. So the first one is sending an email to the requester. And then the second one, remember, that's blocking the customer in Business Central. So let's return to Business Central. Let's open the customer list. And let's have a look at customer 190. So there you can see now the blocked field is set to all, which also makes sense because I have rejected the customer. It shouldn't be possible to work with this customer, and by blocking the customer, so by setting the option to all, you can of course not post, not do anything with this customer in Business Central. You see, so that's the second example, rejecting the customer that will send an email to the requester, but in this case that will also block the customer. So I think these examples demonstrated the potential of Microsoft Flow in combination with Business Central. And of course, because we're limited in time, we only looked at a couple of things, a couple of actions, but you can use many, many more of these actions to connect with other sources, to integrate between different applications, and so on. Let's now have a look at PowerApps. So let's first look at the app I'm going to build. And so this is the end result we're looking at here. And there are a couple of features that should be included in the app. So first of all, the app displays customers, as you can see. But then customers with a credit limit of more than 5,000, the credit limit should be displayed in red. And so here you can see an example, customer 20,000 with a credit limit of 25,000 displayed in red. But for the other customers where the credit limit doesn't exceed 5,000, it's simply displayed in black. So that's the first thing that I would like to achieve. And so by scrolling down, you can see the differences. But then there's a second thing. I would like to be able to follow up on outstanding sales by customer. So in here at the bottom part, you can see a number of items. Now, if I click on a customer, you will see that the list changes. So these are the outstanding items for customer 10,000. If I would click on Tray Research, you will see the outstanding items of this customer. And in this way, again, I can follow up on the outstanding sales by customer. So these are the two features that I would like to include in the app I'm going to build now. So let's start with building our new app. And the first thing I need to do is select the data. And here you can see my current connections, and I will use, of course, Business Central. But if you would like to use another connection, just click here on New Connection, and you can see all the different connections that we have available. But again, like I just said, we will use here Business Central. So I will click here on the first connection. And next, I can then select my company. So in this case, I would like to use Kronos International. And then you can choose a table. So here you can see a number of tables that we have available out of the box, like customers, bank account ledger entries, customer ledger entries, and so on. I will use customer card, so one of the existing tables. So let me do this. And now I will click on Connect. So what you will see now is that PowerApps will create a new app with a basic layout. So it will take a few seconds. So and there you go, I now have an already working app. So I could click on play here at the top right, and you can have a look at the app. You see, so in this case, it's a simple customer list. But by clicking on a customer, for example, I can go to more details. So again, it's very easy to get started with PowerApps, and you can just select any of these tables, and they all include a basic layout that you can start using right away. But okay, in this case, that's not how we want to use it, because remember, we would like to add a number of things, and let's start changing the basic layout. So the first thing that I will do is I will make this a bit smaller, and okay, let's take, for example, 3 customers. So now I have a list of 3 customers, and this means that now I have the bottom area available to add the second part. Okay, but before doing so, let me also change here the search name, because I can see the customer number, the customer name, and the search name. But I don't need the search name, and instead I would like to replace it with, for example, the credit limit. So that's something that I can do by, first of all, selecting here the Browse Gallery 1. So that's basically this area in which my customers are displayed. Then I can click here on Layout, and you will see now that the system will display the current layout, where body 1 is search name, subtitle 1 is name, and title 1 is number. But like I just said, I would like to replace search name with something else. So I can click here on search name, and here you can see all the available fields that we can use. And in this case, I will switch to credit limit local currency. Okay, so there we go. So the credit limit is now displayed, because remember, in the app, I would like to display the credit limit, and even more, based on the amount, I would like to display it in a different color. So let's also have a look at how this works. So I've selected here the credit limits. Currently, they're all displayed in the same color, as you can see. But again, if the credit limit is more than 5,000, I would like to display it in other color. Okay, so I will select here the credit limit. And next, you will see that there are a number of settings that you can apply. Settings, for example, the border color, the style, the thickness, and so on. And in this case, I would like to change the color. So if I select color, you can see the current color, so the RGB code, as you can see here. And that's something that I would like to change, but very important, this is something that I would like to change conditionally. And so based on a specific condition, the program should set a specific color. So, and the condition is something that I can enter here as a formula. And let me do this. So here you can see now the formula I would like to use. So if the credit limit is more than 5,000, then this color code should be applied. Otherwise, it's this color code. And by the way, you can always find these color codes online. So if you wonder what is the color code for red or blue or black, that's something that you can very easily find online. So I've looked up the color code for red, and that's basically this code. And that's the way I would like to apply it. And already by doing this, you can see now that the first and the third line are displayed in black, but the second one in red. Okay, I would even like to emphasize this a little bit more, and if it's more than 5,000, not only in red, but it also should be displayed in bold. So that's also something that I can add. I will select again my credit limit, but in this case, I will go to the setting font weight. So I would like to change the font weight also conditionally, because now you can see that the font weight is normal, but also here I would like to use a condition and basically the same condition. So there you go. So that's the statement I will use here. So again, it's similar to the first one because the condition is the same, credit limit more than 5,000, then font weight should be bold. And also here you can already have a look because now the second credit limit here is also displayed in bold. Okay, so just a few examples that show how you can change the layout, so conditionally if you want. So that's something that is not too complex to achieve. Then the second part, because remember, I would like to display a list of outstanding sales per customer. Now to do this, I will first insert a new table. So I will click here on Data Table. So here I can now see the new table. I need to select the data source, of course. I will not use customer card. Instead, I will add a new data source. So again, Business Central, Kronos International. But in this case, I of course need a sales table. So let me search on sales, and by scrolling down, you can see that there is a table, sales document lines, and that's the one I need. And because I would like to display all the outstanding sales lines customer per customer. So let me select this one, and next I will click on connect, and the system will make a new connection. So and once this is done, you will see that this new part will be updated with a number of fields. So there we go. And once everything is updated, let me drag the table to the bottom. And so now you can see the two different components. At the top, I have my customers, and at the bottom, you can see the sales lines. But of course, the sales lines, first of all, there are way too much fields displayed. I don't need all these fields here. So I would like to be able to select the different fields I would like to use. So let's go here to the sales document lines again. There we go. And by selecting or clearing the fields, I can of course specify the fields I would like to include. So I don't need a description too, for example. So I will clear the fields and so on. So I will now prepare the fields, rearrange them a little bit in the way I would like to use them. Okay, so and this is the list of fields and also the order in which I would like to use them. So for example, I would like to start with the customer number. Then there is the item number and the description. I would like to know the outstanding quantity, also the document number and the unit price. So that would be a very good overview for me. And that's why I have selected and rearranged these fields. Okay, so that's already one step further, but not the endpoint, of course, because all the sales lines are still visible, as you can see, as that they're not filtered by customer. So, and that's, of course, also something I will need to set. So I will need to filter the sales lines based on the customer number. And that's also something I can do here by entering a formula. So by entering a statement, and let me do so. So there we go. This is the filter I would like to use. And so in this case, you can see that my sales document lines are filtered based on the condition outstanding quantity should be greater than 0. So in other words, there should be an outstanding quantity. And then it's filtered based on the customer bill to customer number. In this case, bill to or sell to. Suppose that I would like to switch to sell to because that's also the customer that we use in the sales order. I can very easily change this, of course, to the sell to customer number, as you see here. And now you can already look at the results. So because now I only see the lines of sell to customer 20,000. But if I would select customer 10,000, the system will change this to customer 10,000. And after waiting a few seconds, I can see now the outstanding sales for customer 20,000, you see? So there you go. This is the app I was looking for. So now let's give it a try. So here you can see now how the app looks like. And so again, here you can see all the sales lines of the outstanding sales of customer 10,000. If I click on customer 20,000, I can see the same for customer 20,000, 30,000, and so on. And so that's the first thing I was trying to achieve. So displaying the outstanding sales customer by customer. But also notice the credit limit, because now you see that the credit limit of customers where it exceeds 5,000 is displayed in red and also bold, as you can see. So again, this is the app I would like to use. And of course, I can now go ahead and save the app because I would like to be able to use it on my phone and so on. And so the first thing that I will do is save the app. So let me do this. I can give it a name. So I can click here on app name, for example, my customers. You can choose an icon. So suppose that I would like to use, let's take this icon. Next, I can click on save, and then it will be saved. And once the app is saved, I can also share the app. And that's also very interesting, of course, because maybe the app is not only interesting for me to use, but also for other colleagues. So I can share the app, for example, with everyone in my organization. So then everyone will have it available. But in this case, that's something I don't want to do because it's only interesting for salespersons, for example. So I will search on name. And so, for example, my colleague Stephen, who's also a salesperson, he could also benefit from using the app. So, and then I can share. So here I can specify if Stephen can only use the app or if he also can edit. And if I would like to allow Stephen to make some edits, I can select can edit, and then I can save the app. And now Stephen will receive an email, and he can also start using the app, and he can also even start editing the app. If I now install PowerApps on my phone, I can use my app from anywhere, any place. And so in merely half an hour, I've built a flow that notifies users, sends messages to teams, and updates Business Central data. And also a Power App that shows the outstanding sales of my customers. And these are only a few examples of what you can do by unifying Business Central, Flow, and Power Apps. And that's why I would like to encourage you to start experimenting today and build your own Flow and apps.